Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Enterprise, Season 2, Episode 14, Stigma. So I'm kind of sad I didn't think about this like 600 episodes ago. If this was Friends, this episode would have been titled The One Where They Talk About AIDS. And I mean, that's it. Like, that's the whole thing. So, I don't even know how to talk about this. In 2002, they decided, hey, all of our shows are going to have an AIDS episode. Now, Star Trek works best, even for serious conversations, when you let the writers come up with their own thing. For example, the Assault episode was really well done. That's The Next Generation. Really well done. It shows the assault, it shows Troy dealing with it. It's a powerful episode. Now, they forced The Next Generation to do an episode about the economy and how gas is bad. That episode is so bad that most people don't even realize it exists. They just say, nope, that's not canon. Because that's the one where they limit all of Starfleet down to warp 7 or something. Because if you go warp 10, it makes holes in the galaxy. It's awful. This episode, they said, they're like, hey, we have an AIDS epidemic, make an episode to show that. Because they were forced, watching this episode felt forced to me. It didn't feel like a natural progression. The whole thing is about, a sequel to the Fusion episode, which I had talked about that episode. I don't understand the Vulcans in this series, where they're like, oh, only a minority can do mind melds. Okay, so evidently Spock is part of that minority, and every Vulcan that we've seen since then. And that's the one where T'Pol is assaulted, and he forces the mind meld onto her. And so that was kind of an intense episode because of that reason. Well, evidently by forcing the mind meld, she has now contracted a disease, Panar, that is very, it has a stigma attached to it, which hence the title. And it's a secret. She doesn't want anybody to know. If people find out, she's going to get kicked out of the science council, and she's going to be recalled to Vulcan, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's the way it's portrayed, it doesn't have that same thing. If you are going to make an AIDS HIV epidemic episode, showing T'Pol, I feel like they did it in a bad way. They could have done a huge number of different ways of people contracting things, people living with things, but the fact that oh, this was forced upon her, it wasn't her fault, all sorts of stuff like that, kind of takes away from the meaning for me. I just didn't have that sympathy for T'Pol because it felt so forced, the whole episode, the whole writing and everything. And now she has this incurable disease, and I seriously doubt, I don't know, it's Star Trek, but I seriously doubt we're going to see any repercussions later on. And that would have been the more important thing to me for an episode like that, is to show this incurable disease and to watch it slowly eat away. Where it's oh, you have this very attractive woman, and there's going to be, she says that there's a stigma attached to it, but nothing is going to happen. And so, I don't know, I feel like they could have done better. They could have easily have done better, but they just missed the mark. And besides, but behind all of this is 2002, so I might be just projecting a little bit, but there's the whole subplot between Dr. Phlox, and now we already know that his species is polygamous. He has 3 wives, each of his wife has 3 husbands, so on and so forth. The subplot is Dr. Phlox and his second wife comes to visit, and she's interested in Trip. And so, Tucker's, all freaked out because he can't comprehend this. And it's almost like they both kind of want him to join them in a 3-way. And he's like, I don't know what's happening. And he runs away from it. Which is also kind of a stigma. The fact that Phlox has this weird other sexual history that he does something most people don't understand also has a stigma attached to it. But that one is portrayed more funny, where you just see this woman hitting on him the entire time. And finally he's like, Dr. Phlox, your wife's attracted to me and I'm sorry. And he's like, oh, has she done this for you yet? And Trip freaks out and runs away. This whole episode is just a hot mess. And they definitely needed to sit down, figure out what they wanted to say and a much better way to say it. And I think that's what disappointed me about it, is this episode had huge potential and it could have been fantastic, but they had an idea and they completely missed it. So for those who have seen it, what did you guys think? What did you think about, or what do you think about T'Pol's sickness? What do you think about the whole stigma behind it? What do you think about like Dr. Phlox, his wife, and Trip? Go ahead, let me know what you guys think about this one, and I will see you guys next time for Ceasefire.